Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about how close we get to failure relative to training volume. And this is stuff that over time I have allowed the scientific literature to influence me. I've tried a lot of different methods, I've coached a lot of different methods, relative to reps and reserve, volume, things like that. And it's just largely been my experience that what the current research, the newest meta analysis and things are showing, does seem to be pretty consistent with what I find. And a lot of people did notice that when those newest studies were coming out on that, I had kind of already gone in that direction. Meaning as someone who's sampled the different stuff over the years and played with it and observed it in my own clients and lifters, because we always have some wiggle room in these things, I've just largely found that it's the case that if we take sets pretty dang close to failure, very, very close to failure in our proximity, again, if you know what that even is, right? If you even know what that feels like, and that's the problem with more novice lifters, they tend to way underestimate that. But that we need much, much lower training volumes to stimulate nearly maximum hypertrophy. And I think kind of the take home here is that what we find is that the accumulating evidence is that we just don't need as much training volume as we thought we did to see maximum growth. Furthermore, we're finding more and more data essentially showing what we've known a long time. That if we do hard sets, we do very difficult sets, we struggle to recover session to session if our volumes get too high. And it gets to the point where hypertrophy is compromised. And I saw some stuff recently with Beardsley discussing some of that. What they're finding in studies now are the actual mechanisms by which this occurs. That what they're noting is that if performance is suffering from session to session due to under recovery, and again, different things happening both with the peripheral nervous system, with the tissue itself, that hypertrophy itself is compromised. Okay? Hypertrophy is compromised. And the idea is that, for a lot of people, and this is what you find in the lifting world, you have to be leery of, is that, if drug doses get high enough, we can offset this. Okay? We can offset this to some extent. It gives us wiggle room there. But what happens if you're not willing to up the dose? What happens if you're not willing to run high doses? Okay, even God forbid. What happens if you're completely drug-free? Okay, that's a big problem because none of your influencers are. So what we see are a large number of people putting out information and advice who don't have to worry about these things to the same extent because none of them are drug-free. Okay, they claim they are. They always scream, I'm natural, I'm natural. But they're not. They wouldn't be fitness influencers if they were. Okay? I mean, there should be some common sense there. They would already be weeded out. They're not making money. They're not having the look or the performance or anything else to really make money in the industry. Like, they're not. They'd just be replaced by people who are using stuff. Okay, they would just be weeded out of the competition. And it's hilarious because, again, that's another side topic. You can tell from the reasons to how they explain how they're natural. It's like the ones you can tell who are the biggest liars. Like it's comical, some of the answers they give. It really is. It's not the, hey, I'm concerned with the health concerns. I know a lot about it. I researched it, and to me, it's not worth it. Okay, I might buy that one, but that's never what it is it? I've literally heard these clowns say stuff like, oh, I don't know much about it. And they're surrounded by juice heads, like all their friends are juice heads. Yeah, okay. Everyone you know uses. I'm sure they've told you plenty. So that's a whole nother side topic. Back over to the point. If that's not in the mix, then you really have to pay attention to this research. And the facts are, when we start doing sets close to failure, not only can we train less, and I'm not telling people to lower frequency, I'm telling them to lower volume. I think that for most people, closer to 2 times a week for muscle groups and lifts is pretty ideal. So I'm talking about not adjusting frequency, I'm talking about adjusting intra-session volumes. Okay, if we're training hard, we not only can grow maximally from less sets, we will grow maximally from less sets because we're not inhibiting our recovery so much that we're having to space the workouts out. So this is something that we have to look at and we have to take seriously. This is one reason that oftentimes you guys see me for most lifters, I'm telling them like 8 to 12 sets for most of your major muscle groups. The only stuff that should even be exceeding that are your weak links. Okay, so for me, stuff like triceps, right? My triceps get more than that. Why? Because they're a weak link. Things like maybe my hamstrings get more than that because they limit my deadlifts, right? So my muscles that personally for me either have the highest tolerance or their weakest links, I do that. And it's the same with my clients. That's how I program my drug-free clients too. Because I have people who compete at a fairly high level in powerlifting who are not on anything. This is how I treat their training. They might have 1 or 2 muscle groups that we go over that. Because we're doing hard sets, we're training hard. And if we're doing that, again, not only can we make better gains and be done quicker, it necessitates it. Because otherwise it's inhibiting hypertrophy. And if we're inhibiting hypertrophy, we're inhibiting strength. A bigger muscle has more strength potential. I largely train people for strength. But we have to maximize muscle mass to produce maximum strength. So we cannot afford to compromise hypertrophy by getting our volumes wrong. And in all honesty, I feel that for most people, if you have to pick between a little less than optimal volume versus exceeding optimal volume, I'm rather going to have them reduce it. Why? Less likely to have overuse problems, less likely to have overuse injuries, less likely for my lifter to be beat up. And if a lifter feels good all the time and they're not hurting, do I care if they're gaining muscle 3% slower? 5% slower? Maybe because we didn't optimize it. We don't have it perfect, we just have it close. I can live with that. I can live with that, and I think most good coaches can too. And I think most of you out there listening can also. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.